Morning. It is Wednesday, May the 2nd, 2018. And I'm going to talk about something I hate. Guy's daily drive. So this is the deal. There's been something that has really been nagging at me for the last couple years, and I talk about it quite a bit on the MyMac Podcast and more recently the Mac to the Future livecast that I do every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Plug. And that is the subject of financial analysts. These are people who project into the future where they believe a certain company is going to go, or at least that's what they're supposed to do. And as an analyst working for a company, you are supplying guidance not just to the company that you work for, but to all of the people who use that company for their investments, for their retirement savings, for whatever their reasons are for having a stock portfolio. And it's mostly to grow your wealth. It's wealth creation. And that seems to be a dirty word, or a couple of dirty words this particular go around. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting a little bit more than what you already have, whether it's for yourself or wanting it for your children or whatever. The whole idea that having money somehow taints you as a human being is ridiculous. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is about as blatant as you can be, stock manipulation through the use of fake stories, the false, what's a good word? I'm hesitant to use the term fake news because it's so overdone. Because this isn't really news. This is a narrative, a fake narrative that's being used by many, either knowingly or unknowingly, to further an agenda. In this case, the manipulation of the stock price of a company. And while the company that I'm talking about is Apple, it's done all the time with many different companies, and the consequences can be severe. The worst part is when something like this is put out, something that's false, and put out for the sole purpose of manipulating the stock price, manipulating the markets. When it's proven to be false, proven to be exaggerated. There is typically no blowback on the person or company or media representative that put the story out in the first place. And here's the example. For the last month, really, it's been since the end of the second quarter of fiscal year 2018. And for people who don't know how that works, the first fiscal quarter here in the United States does not start in January. I know, weird. It starts in October. So October 1st begins the first fiscal quarter of any given year. So that quarter is October, November, and December. The second quarter starts in January. It covers January, February, March. Third quarter, April, May, June, so on and so forth. So the end of the second quarter for fiscal year 2018 would have been at the end of March 31st. And the moment that the fiscal quarter ended, and companies, media companies that deal in business matters, began their wait for financial statements from various companies that they cover in regards to how well that particular company did during the second quarter. And the second quarter is a significant quarter for a couple of reasons. Number one, the end of the second quarter marks the halfway point for that fiscal year. We've gone through 2 quarters, there's 2 quarters left. The other thing that makes it significant is it's the first quarter after the Christmas holidays. The Christmas holidays, or the lead up to the Christmas holidays, is in most Western countries like one of the biggest quarters of the year in regards to how much people are spending. Okay? So, end of the second quarter, very significant quarter. How well is the company doing at the halfway point of the year after the holiday quarter? And it's typically a down quarter. It almost always is a down quarter as compared to the first quarter, which was the holiday quarter. So you can gauge, you can gauge a lot about the health of a company by how they did in a quarter after a major holiday. So, at the end of quarter one, when Apple had their financial call to everybody for the end of quarter one and how well they did, they put out guidance for how well they think they're going to do in the next quarter. And one of the things that they said, that Apple said, was that they anticipated sales to be, now sales, we're not talking about profits, we're talking about sales. Sales were going to be in the $60 to $62 billion range for just that quarter. So that's what Apple says. Analysts say lots of things. They put out their own guidance on how well they think a company is going to do. And it's a guess. It could be an educated guess, but it's just a guess. So lots of analysts put out how well they thought Apple was going to do. And at the end of the second quarter, at the end of March, people started speculating, not on how well Apple was going to do in relation to Apple's guidance, but how well Apple was going to do in relation to what the analysts said that they thought Apple should be doing, or how well they should be doing. And this follows a pattern. And typically, it almost always starts off with Apple, according to rumors and people in the know, say that they have cut orders from suppliers for certain items. And typically, they're talking about the iPhone, since that is the number one product that Apple sells these days. I mean, that's just the way things are. Apple sells a crap ton of iPhones. Now, whether or not these companies have had their orders cut from, I mean, it really, when it comes to it, it's weird, because it's like, okay, you're signing up to a company. You've got a contract with a company to supply you with X number of parts in the course of X number of days, whatever that time frame is. And I find it difficult to believe that the company that has contracted with you can just say, yeah, well, okay, we changed our minds, and we're only going to take X percentage of whatever it was we contracted for you to give us. Well, unless it specifically states otherwise, that would be a breach of contract. But anyway, usually the analysts that say that Apple has cut orders from these suppliers, they're not quoting from the suppliers themselves. They're quoting from some reliable source, unnamed reliable source. And we are just supposed to take their word, because, their feet are never held in the fire over any of this. But we're supposed to just take their word for it that this unnamed source from supplier XYZ has the skinny on the number of gigas that Apple is now receiving for product X. Literally, product X. And so they put out a report saying that Apple is cutting iPhone 10 orders. Apple is cutting this. Apple is cutting that. And because it's coming from these companies that supposedly have a reliable, that they're supposed to be a reliable bellwether over whether how well a company is doing, stock prices can go down, sometimes significantly. And when it turns out, as in this case, that what they said was either untrue or exaggerated, nobody ever comes back on them and says, what you said was untrue, and we are going to punish you in some way that is appropriate to whatever it was that the crime was. And it really, I mean, when you're talking about stock manipulation, if it was an employee of that company putting out deliberately false information, say Tim Cook stood up there and said, we're going to sell 60 gazillion iPhones, and the stock price goes up, and then the next day he comes and says, oh, well, we meant to sell 60 gazillion iPhones, but it's really only going to be 6. Well, he could be put in jail for that. That is blatant stock manipulation. And it's typically for their own financial gain. Which is why I have to wonder in these companies that report on financial news, what is their hold on the companies that they're reporting on? Their reporters should be required to say what their positions are in the companies that they are reporting on. If they hold stock, or if they hold, any kind of, if there's any connection at all to the companies that they're reporting on, they should be required to disclose that. The same with the companies that they work for. If they have a significant amount of stock or a significant amount of stock in companies that support other companies, then they should be required to disclose that. You don't get to, well, they do, but you shouldn't be allowed to say the things that are going to affect a stock price if you hold any kind of interest in that company. That's the way I feel about it. It's a matter of ethics. It's just not right, and it's just not fair to all the people, the smaller investors, that can be ruined by what these guys are saying for their own gain. Anyway, if you'd like to get a hold of me and tell me that I'm full of crap, it wouldn't surprise me. You can reach me, guy@mymac.com or guy@mttfgo.com. I'm on the Twitters @MacParrot. And you can also find us, well, you can leave me a telephone message. We have a Skype number, 703-436-9501. I'm on the Mac to the Future Go livecast on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over there on the Facebooks. You can find that simply by looking up my name. You can also watch it via the Mac to the Future Go Facebook group. And what else? I think that's about it. You can also, if you want to see me in person, I'm going to be at the MacStock Conference and Expo, July 21st and 22nd in Woodstock, Illinois. There is a really, really good code right now that you can basically get all the way down to the early bird pricing that I was talking about. It was just a few weeks ago. On all of the various ways that I do this. That code is, I believe it's just MyMac. So if you go ahead and you order your tickets for the MacStock Conference and Expo, use the discount code MyMac, and you will get really significant savings. It is. I mean, this is probably the best code that I have seen in relation to the MacStock Conference and Expo ever, including the codes that we were using earlier for the early bird pricing. This will drop the price of the conference significantly, and better yet, both Tim Robertson and I will get a small amount back that we can use for our expenses to also go to the conference. So that code again is MyMac. And if for whatever reason that doesn't work, let me know and we will fix it for you. Thanks everyone for watching. Tonight I'm actually doing the Mac to the Future Go livecast. Check that out. And we will catch you next time on Guy's Daily Drive.